Welcome to another episode of What Am I Doing With My Life with me, your host, Alyssa Desai. Do you ever sit there just thinking, what am I doing with my life? Well, this is the podcast for you. Each episode normalizes not having it all figured out and gives you actionable tips when you feel stuck, lost, and overwhelmed by life. I'm joined by some incredible guests, and I'll also be sharing some solo episodes to help you with wherever you are in your journey right now. Today, I'm joined by the wonderful Ire. Let's dive straight into her journey.
Hi, Ire. How
Hello.
are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good.
The weather's shining and it's all nice and bright outside, so I
know.
can't complain.
And you're bringing so much brightness here, which is putting a huge smile on my face.
Thank you. Let's try.
To start us off, I would love you to introduce yourself and tell me about your journey. How did you get to where you are today?
So, well, my name is Ire. I started my journey. It's interesting because I was thinking about this question actually a few days ago, because I was like, there's so many parts in your life that like can be the beginning, or is like, I started my journey when I was born in Lagos, Nigeria, or I started my journey when basically I remember I was thinking back to this question, and one of the key things that makes me think about my journey was when I was in Nigeria, I remember watching Wimbledon, and I remember seeing Serena Williams and thinking, oh my gosh, I really want to work in Wimbledon one day. Like, I just had this image in my mind. And then past a few years later down the line, I was always that person in school where I was not book smart. Like, I was okay, I passed, but I always had a thing with people. I really got along with people in school, and I just always did things where there was like United Nations and all those sorts of things. I actually thought I was going to go into politics, but then I realized I was too emotional for politics. I can't do politics at all. And then I decided to go into a lot of PR. So I grew up in Ireland. I know quite a lot of people don't actually realize that.
I had no idea, but when you said Ireland...
This is the thing. When I say Ireland and when I'm around Irish people, the accent sort of kind of comes out. And then I moved out of Ireland, and I was like, I didn't think I knew that I wanted to work in fashion at that point, but I knew I wanted to work in PR because I had a really big interest in, and prior to that as well, I had really big interest in psychology and just knowing people, and like I was just really interested in people. And then I moved because in Ireland, it just felt like the opportunities weren't there for me. So I thought I'll go to London for uni, study PR. I went to LCC actually, and then study PR there. And then I thought that would give me like a really good opening sort of slate in terms of I could go into fashion PR, I can go into sports PR, I could go make my mom really proud and go into, I don't know, finance PR, or I don't know, something anyway. And then for some strange reason always then stumbled in fashion. Did my first ever internship in fashion, and if I'm being completely honest, hated it. Absolutely hated it. I was like, this is not for me. Being stuck in a tiny little room, doing absolutely nothing. This is really not for me. And then I then did another fashion internship because I was like, I can't just give up in just the one go. Went and did another internship. It was nice. Got the same old £10 a week. Didn't really get you anywhere. And then did that for a bit. And then I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to do this. Went to another internship, and that one too, I was just like, hate it, not going to do this at all. And during the internship, and this is why I mean that goes back to the Wimbledon thing and later down in life in terms of the decisions that I make, was I got a call. I had applied to work at Wimbledon as like a court attendant, and I got a call halfway through my internship saying, but I didn't get the job first, but they asked me if I wanted to be placed on the waiting list. And I was just like, I was so angry, and I was like, I can't believe I didn't get it. It was one of those interviews where it feels like, yes, this is mine, I've totally got this. And then they were like, you can either choose to be placed on the waiting list, or you can, we can remove you off the list. And I was like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. You can put me on the waiting list. So I remember this vividly. I got out the internship. It was around Tottenham Court Road area. And I went into McDonald's for lunch. And I remember standing in McDonald's getting this call and like trying to order. And this person going, oh, you got a job at Wimbledon? And I was like, oh my God. this is so great. And then I quit my internship literally the next day. I'm like, this is not worth the money, the stress or anything. I would rather go see Serena Williams and actually tick off a dream that never in a million years living in Nigeria or not knowing what the future would hold, be in a position to actually then go to Wimbledon and work at Wimbledon. And then those are the little nuggets in my life that I hold dearly, because it's really important to dream big. It doesn't mean that all dreams are always achieved, and that's fine. I think you put so much pressure in yourself and in life that like you need to have these goals and these certain things, and then if it doesn't happen, it's like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. But it's also realizing that it's life. You're a human being. Like, things happen. There are good days, there are bad days, there are sad days, there are angry days. And then and taking it back a bit, I went back to the internship, obviously left, went to Wimbledon, started doing that. And it was just a 2-week stint. Like, if you're a uni student or first year of work or anything, I would honestly recommend applying for a job at Wimbledon. It's genuinely one of the best 2 weeks of your whole time.
I also worked at Wimbledon.
Did you? Oh, what are the chances?
I was in the debentures lounge,
Oh my
which
gosh.
is where a lot of the older people go. But I think all I did for 2 weeks was just eat all the food. I mean,
Genuinely.
I mean, I do that pretty much all the time anyway. But every day they'd be like, "Well, this cake, we need to get rid of this, and these sandwiches."
That was literally the thing. It's such a good experience, isn't it? You literally get to hang out with people similar age as you, people in a similar sort of situation. Say that you're at uni, finishing uni, starting uni, or you're starting work. I used to actually take time off work when I started, and then take 2 weeks off to then work at Wimbledon, because it was just such a great job. But then, so I was still at that point in my career. I obviously was still at uni, so I was doing these internships, working at River Island, working at Wimbledon, and doing internships at the same time to basically afford life and living in London as well, and also just making sure that final, in terms of my career wise, and putting as much effort in as possible. And it got to a point where I think I then finished uni. And this is the other thing, where speaking things into existence and just saying positive affirmations in life is really, really important and really key. I remember then saying to myself, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. I don't think we ever know what we want to do, because each year in our lives is something different. It's a new phase. You make different decisions based on different elements and aspects. And I remember this so clearly, because I had this thing in my head, was when I graduate, I want to get these designer pair of heels. And I just had it in my head that this is what I want to do. I worked really hard. I'm going to make sure I'm wearing these beautiful shoes. Didn't know where they were going to be from, but I knew I wanted to buy this luxury shoe item to walk down. So I got my degree and I couldn't afford the shoes. And I remember it was around summertime. I can't remember when graduation was, but you know how there's usually a break beforehand.
Yeah.
And then so I was trying to save up as much money as I could, but thankfully, really last minute, I think I got a present from an aunt or an uncle or something for graduating, and I was like, yes, I can finally buy these shoes. And then I started looking on the internet for these shoes. I didn't know what shoes I wanted to get, but I had a goal in mind. Stumbled on matchesfashion.com, and then I bought these shoes from this company. And then it was these DVF shoes. I can't remember the color now. I wish I actually held on to them. I can't remember I don't know where they are now. But and there was these DVF shoes that I was I can't remember. It was probably £180 at that time. It was massive money. And then not that I'm incredibly old, but still, it was massive money back then. And then I got these shoes, walked down, got my degree, and I was so happy and I was so excited. And then you start the job search. It's just hard, isn't it? How did you find it going from that transition?
I honestly left uni and I think I just cried.
Did you?
Because I felt, and the thing was, after uni I was going travelling, and I knew I was going to travelling. And I think I'd actually had a job set up from September to February. Mm-hmm. So my mum kept saying to me, Alyssa, you're fine. Like, but I don't know what it was. It just felt like such a shift of thinking, oh my gosh, I'm out in like the big scary world and I don't know what I want to do and I have no idea. So much of what your journey resonates with me in terms of not really being book smart. Like I just didn't find anything at school that I really loved. I did like psychology, but I didn't do that well in it. So then I thought, well, that's not what I want to do. And then I ended up studying PR and marketing because I thought I'm a real people person. But it just didn't. I don't know whether it was my degree, but it just completely put me off it.
Do you find that, like, I don't know, maybe it had to do with the timing that we were in. There was such an emphasis on whatever degree that you do. It was really, really important. And like, it was basically dictated what journey you were then on. So I don't know if you kind of felt that same way, and it was kind of hard to then separate yourself. Whereas nowadays, where it's like, it doesn't really necessarily matter what degree, or even if you've gone to university, you can just basically, the world is your oyster.
I completely agree.
It's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And I feel like I'm going to be like the younger people, but it feels to me that people are kind of now creating their own projects and doing their own things, whether that's having a social media presence or a blog or something, where they're just allowing themselves to explore their interests rather than it being like, this is what I'm interested in, so I'm going to study at uni and like then that's going to be my career. And I definitely, I kind of left and I was like, what am I doing? And then I just thought, okay, I just have to go traveling and then figure it out. And it was literally doing one of the PR internships that I did. The HR director, I think that was her title, she just said to me, Esther, I think you're really a people person. Have you ever thought about HR? And that kind of then led me into my whole career. So I do think, I know you've got these pivotal moments too. And it's like, these pivotal moments can really be life-changing, and you don't realise how they can set you onto a different path.
Exactly. And it's like all these little tiny things that this is why I think that it's really important to actually take some time and look back at what you've achieved or what you've gone through. I think we ultimately look at life as this, you have to have this tick point at the end of the day of like, this is the one goal that I've made. So when I get to that point, I can tick it. You forget about all the little things that you've actually done to get you to that point, which more than anything is actually the most important thing. And going back to like how it all started for me, and I think those little tiny moments where, who stood then to think that after I bought these shoes and I had done this all crazy internships, and I remember there was one internship that I did in particular which mentally was one of the most interesting pivotal moments actually, that made me realise how it's important for me to stick to my values and make sure that I'm treating people with kindness, and make sure that whatever I do, I don't forget who I am and how I have been raised. I'm very grateful that my parents they are Nigerian, so obviously they have certain expectations for you, but still they have taught me to be a good person in this world and be a good person in this life. And I also owed that to my faith as well. So I think when I was doing this internship in particular, unfortunately, it wasn't the best one, where mentally it just got to a point where I was like, I'm so sorry, but I can't be here anymore. It was to the point where I had spoken up and said it's quite a stressful environment to work in. As I mentioned before, I used to work at River Island, so I'd work at River Island work at River Island Saturday and Sunday, internship Monday to Friday. I'd get like text messages in work saying, can you put the social media post out? I'm like, no, you're not paying me. And then I'd have to like hide in the stock room and text or do stuff and try and put things on social media. And then I also then found myself competing against work social media and my social media. Every time the likes came up, I was like, why isn't nobody liking my pictures? So mentally I knew something wasn't right. So those sort of little things then led me to then making that decision, like, this is not the right place for me. And then spoke to them about it, and they were like trying to get me to stay. They even offered me a job, and I was like, no, this is really not a place for me. And then a few weeks later down the line, I was on, I don't know if it still exists, Fashion Network. I don't know if you know that, or Fashion,
It's not fashion worky, is it?
Fashion worky, that like, yes.
Do you know, it's because I was with someone who mentioned it yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
That is fashion worky. So I was on that website. I remember it like it was yesterday. It's like pink and purple. It's like, it brings me back to like old Bebo days sort of things. Wow. And then I saw this internship experience at Matches. And I was like, what's the chances? Put my shoes there. Might get a job there. Might as well go for it. And then I had the interview at Matches, and I don't know what it was, but it was a great night. When I met Fran, who love her to bits, she's one of my closest friends now. She had done the hiring, and I had to do like some things on Excel, like some basic like first PR internship questions, and I got the role, and it was amazing. It was exciting. I didn't even like bother looking at the contract in terms of like how much does it pay in terms of this and the other. All I saw was a salary in a great company like Matches. Like, this is great. Like, I was so made up. And then I was just like, yeah, this is ready. This is where my journey is going to begin. And because it was such a great environment to work in, I actually always thought I was always just going to be at Matches. There's always these conversations in regards to make sure you jump and make sure you do lots of different things, especially in terms of salary development as well, or salary growth, I should say. And I was always like very content. I'm the type of person where I don't need much in life to be happy, because I know there's something more than like, it's the people make me happy. And I think maybe there's a bit of naivety in that, and maybe that's probably stopped me from like growing a bit more, because sadly people do take advantage of that at times, and sometimes it may also mean that you then become comfortable. But regardless of that, I was in this amazing environment at Matches, being exposed to so many different people, so many different like just everything, and like obviously we met at Matches as well. So yeah, it was very, very, very challenging experience in lots of different ways. Challenging in the sense of it challenged who I was and how I approached work and how I spoke to people. And one of the biggest lessons I learned from that company is just being kind. You can work in an environment where people are kind, and it's fashion, but people can still be kind. And I think that then warped not warped. I don't think that's the right word to say. I think you go in, when you first start off a fashion, I don't know what you thought as well, like you start off thinking everyone always references Devil's Wear Prada. Like even when you go into the Matches office in the Shard, it looks like that, doesn't it? It's just like, yeah, it's just that whole life. But people were kind. It was such a rare thing to see in the industry, and you got to do these lots of crazy events, crazy nights, and you put blood, sweat and tears into everything, but it really shaped who I was as a person, especially in terms of my career. And then cut long story short, in terms of my journey at Matches, I started off as a PR assistant, worked my way up to lots of different positions within brand and communications. Like I said, one of my massive things that I love to do is just be around people and building relationships. And I think that's why PR wise, it worked quite well, because that's a lot of what the role asks you to do. But then it got to a certain point where I was like, I don't think I'm being challenged enough anymore, or I've learned what I needed to learn at a certain point. So then I had a few conversations, and then I then got given the responsibility of looking and developing the menswear talent partnership side of things, strategic partnership side of things for the business. And for me, that was such a massive achievement, because we delved into the world of talent and things like that. But when I jumped in, I wouldn't say talent at that point. It was actually it's a bit complicated saying talent influencer. I know it's a bit yeah, interesting. But I decided to like focus, and I had a mind in terms of like, this is what I believe the Matches man looks like and who he is. And I was really proud in terms of how I shaped what that was. So I got given lots of different responsibilities in the business, worked with an amazing group of people, both internally and externally. I remember one of my first ever projects that I was really, really pushing for was working with Hector Bellerin. So at that time, working with footballers, the only really big footballer at the time that fashion people worked with was David Beckham, of course. But I just, obviously, significantly biased. I'm an Arsenal supporter, so of course, I'm like, I'll make sure I get Arsenal involved somewhere, in some shape or form. And but to be honest with you, Hector Bellerin was like, as much as I was biased, I made sure I was doing like my job at the same time. And he was really well known within the world of men's and fashion and obviously sports. And he really made a name for himself. And I had to put together this whole deck and numbers and why I think he's right and this that, and the other. Ended up being one of the most successful campaigns we've ever had for Matches, both in terms of revenue and social metrics as well. And then that just gave me this like energy of like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Like, this is where I can see myself. I can do it. I can really, really do it. I don't know if you ever had those situations where it was like someone's giving you this sort of task and then it just like gives you this burst of energy.
Definitely. I think it's when like people who are more senior than you or people around you see that you are capable and maybe you don't necessarily, a bit like, oh, like, can I do this? And when other people believe in you and see that you're capable and give you those opportunities and then like it actually pays off, it's so incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, it makes a difference. And I think that's one of the really sad things sometimes you find in some businesses is that like, how do you expect people to grow if you're not giving them an opportunity? And people are willing to listen and learn if you guide them and you show them the right thing to do. I mentioned earlier that there was a situation in Matches when I thought I was actually going to be fired because I unfortunately sent the wrong NDA to the wrong company. But after speaking to a colleague, she just told me, just be honest and let them know. And ever since then, I was just like, you just got to be honest. When you've got to own up to your mistakes, because I think it says a lot about the person that you are speaking to and like how they handle the situation. They could go two ways. One, they can acknowledge and say, yes, that was a mistake, but don't worry. Let's work together to find a solution. Next time, handle it in this way. Or two, they could berate you and break your confidence down, not find a solution. Of course, like you're always going to want to aim for option one. So I think those little moments within Matches and like my career really, really shaped me and like helped me realize that I need to be that person for other people as well. So I made it like a really big thing when developing that I always think about the people who are also coming after me, both in terms of race as well, but both in terms of I'm going to butcher this word now. I can't. Do you know what I'm trying to say? When you do it based on your actual work. This is a task for everyone listening right now. You know that word.
Wait, is it like I want to say like meritocracy?
Yeah, something like
it's
that.
Definitely not.
I literally wrote an article about this. I can't remember what the word was, but yeah, so metro something. And then so I made sure when interns were being signed on, so I had the opportunity as well to manage interns. So that really helped me in terms of like management as well. And I made sure I did like lots of courses in between that as well. So yeah, I was always supporting like interns coming into the business and like letting them know it was okay and just letting them know like it's not the end of the world if that shoe did not get in there to LA on time. It was probably not going to be shot in the first place. So it's okay. It is okay. And so I kind of always just took those lessons with me. So lots of different like positions while I was at the company. It made sure that meant I was exposed to lots of different teams as well. And at this point still, I knew I liked what I was doing. Whether or not I was in love with it, I don't know. But I think I was because, I don't know, to be honest with you, but I felt like we put so much pressure on ourselves, like, and I guess, and I don't know about you, especially you doing your things by yourself as well, like how you like find the environment, like, because you're not even comparing yourself to people within like a business structure. You then also have society to compare yourself to, and lots of different things. How do you find that? How do you manage that sort of pressure?
I think that's a really interesting point. And for me, what I've realised is that some days I'm going to wake up and I'm going to think, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I actually don't want to run my business today, and I don't want to be doing this, and I think I'm over it. And I think what I've learned is that, you know, to what you said earlier, we are humans who are going to feel every different emotion, and that is completely okay. So I think for me, if I wake up and I feel a bit like I'm not in the mood or I'm not motivated, yeah, if there's things I need to get done, I will get them done. But I don't read into it and think, oh my gosh, panic, this is the end of the world. I'm just like, let me just like get through this day. And, you know, if it carried on, then maybe I would take a bit more notice and maybe sit myself down and, you know, really ask myself, okay, what's going on here? But sometimes it's just a day, and then you wake up the next day and then you feel excited about things again. Or maybe there's something, you know, you're worried about something, or there's something else on my mind. With comparison, definitely. Like I still remember in the beginning, I mean, I feel like I was super naive because I was never really on social media that much.
Okay. Oh, very jealous. So jealous.
I'd basically like, I mean, never was really on Facebook, and then never really was on Instagram. So then I just deleted
Were you
that
on
app.
Bebo?
I was on Bebo back in the day. Definitely on Bebo back in the day. And then I just like deleted the Instagram app, like just never really was on it. And even in my coaching diploma, I was like, definitely not going to be on Instagram. Like I'm not doing this. And afterwards, I kind of thought, what's stopping me? So then I got myself on Instagram, which has been amazing. And I am so grateful for everything that it's given me, you know, clients and connecting with people, and, you know, even just like chatting with people that I would have never spoken to before, you know, and I really love sharing the things that I share. But going onto Instagram, I was suddenly like, oh my gosh, there's so many coaches. I genuinely thought I was going to be the only young coach in like
Oh, bless you. I didn't realise.
Instagram, and I was like, oh
wow.
my God.
It doesn't help that the algorithm sends it over to you.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden I was on my Instagram and all it was young coaches, and I had this immense feeling of like comparison. A couple of things that really helped me was like, there is I saw a video and it was like, scroll, like the person you're comparing yourself to, scroll right back down to their first post. Like,
that's interesting.
You know, you're comparing yourself now, and they've been doing this for 5 years.
Yeah.
If you scroll back down to their post they did 5 years ago, you're probably not comparing yourself to that person who had to start off somewhere too. So that really helped me. And then I think I really just tried to come back to myself and remind myself that like their success doesn't take away from my success.
You're living two different lives.
Exactly.
Like two completely different lives. Yeah.
And I always think like, you know, I wouldn't want to date everyone. There's going to be people who want to be my friends and people who don't want to be my friends. Similarly for, you know, I'll feel the same about people. There's restaurants I'm going to want to go to and restaurants I don't want to go to. Same with music. Like, it's not that need to be this only coach for the whole bloody world. Like, that's going to be impossible. No.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of how what I will tell myself. And also I'll tell myself it's okay if I suddenly have a moment when I'm just like, oh God, I feel a bit of comparison, and just go, it's okay.
Yeah, it's actually fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's life. Why?
Yeah.
I know it's very easy sometimes to say these things, but reality is life is very short.
Yeah.
Every single one of us has a talent. The most important thing, and what makes me sleep at night and wake up every morning, is knowing that the most important thing in this whole world is just being kind to someone.
Yeah.
like, take away all the money in the world. Just, even if we all, like, you were incredibly rich, I was incredibly rich, we could go into the shop and do whatever we want to do. It doesn't matter in the end of the day, does it? Because how you make people feel, you'll always want something more. You'll always want that next thing. You'd always want that next shoe. You'll always have that next goal. And that's absolutely fine. I think where it stops being fine for me is when you start treating people badly.
Yeah.
That just, it takes away from everything. So I think that's what's really, really pushed me. And I sometimes find more excitement working with a really great team and people than actually delivering on a project, because it takes a lot to work with lots of different personalities and lots of different, like, things happening at the one time, because you actually don't know what everyone is going through in their own individual lives. So I think that really, like, it really, really shaped me, going through lots of different things personally and both at work as well. And, like, fast forward, developing through matches, really owning in on the matches man sort of side of things, and really, really growing that. We worked with so many amazing people, both from the world of football to sport, like sports as a whole, and film and music and all that sort of stuff. And, like, got to go on these amazing trips, and we worked in particular with Frieze as well. So, which, funny enough, I am now at Frieze. I work as a partnership manager there. I have amazing clients. So currently looking after BMW, Jo Malone and Chanel, which it's tough at days, but you know what? I'm up for a challenge. They are such lovely brands to work for. And it just goes back to the thing of being kind to people. Like, we all want the same goal. We all want a successful partnership. And it's been really, really amazing doing that transition from fashion to art. And I think when you go back to the question of, like, what am I doing in my life? Like, where am I going with my life? I never had the plan for this. I never in a million years, I think, honestly, growing up in Nigeria, I'm going to be, like, working at Frieze at one of the biggest art fairs in the whole world, and publications, and also being able to work at matches and being able to work with football stars. And, like, it's just, it's insane. I never really imagined that. And what it then boils down to now is, like, I still don't know what life is going to put on my, like, I just don't know. I have the exciting privilege to be marrying my best friend next year, which I'm really excited about. It's very annoying, but I love him to bits. And he runs his own business. And similar to you, it's one of the really warming things that I've been really grateful for is I have weirdly found a way where I have loads of people around me who are actually running their own business. And I'm one of the rare people who actually has a 9 to 5. Is it 9 to 5 or 9 to 6? Can't remember. And for me, it's really nice because I don't think people speak about that anymore as much, because there's a massive emphasis on nowadays, like, owning your own thing or doing your own thing. But it's like, you can still make impact doing a 9 to 5.
100%.
Like, it's fine. It's actually fine to do a 9 to 5. It's fine to want to go at work and have Monday to Friday and know that you have your weekends free. Whereas for you and for Matt, my partner, it's, you're constantly working.
Yeah. You can't, like, even when you have time off, you often will just, like, be thinking about something, or you'll suddenly have a random idea. Then you're like, oh, I'm just going to put that on the notes in my phone. And then, like, you know, all of a sudden you're at your laptop just, like, looking at, I don't know, maybe do some shopping. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh, but let me just look into this. And I think when you love what you do and you run your own business, you can. And, like, it's just always at the back of your mind. I think that's why it's so important for me on this podcast to have people who, it's not just about people who run their own business, because I think I don't want people to feel like that is the only route to be successful, to make a lot of money, to be happy, whatever it is, your version of success. Because it's, for me, it's really about, what do you want to do at this moment, knowing that you can't tell the future, and you can change your mind, right? But do what you want to do, and then you're going to feel the happiest, rather than forcing yourself into having your own business because you feel like that's what people are doing these
that.
days, or like anything like that, and actually it doesn't make you happy.
It really does. And it's funny because you go through a situation where, and I think that's why I made conscious decisions, well, when you're working in an industry like we have as well, like within the fashion industry as well, is that there's so many pressures, both in terms of social and just even lifestyle and lots of different things. And I made a conscious decision at some point in my life to actually stop following quite a lot of influencers, because I just didn't need that. Like, I was happy for them. You do you get those brand deals, but I knew that's not a reality for me. And what that then does is it makes me feel down. So then I decided to just stop following influencers and actually just like focus on like friends and family and all that sort of stuff. And then because of obviously the nature of the job that I did, I still kind of needed to know who was doing great stuff and things like that. So I had a separate Instagram for work purposes. But it goes back to that thing of, why are you doing what you're doing? What is important to you? And I think that's what's keeping me going, in terms of, while I might not know where exactly am I going to in life, the one thing I do know is whatever I do, I want to do it being a values-led person. I want to do it with grace. I want to do it knowing that I can sleep at night. I want to do it knowing that I've been kind to someone, I've helped someone. You're not going to help everyone. You're not going to be friends with everyone. But I think that was really, really important, both from a relationship standpoint, but also a personal standpoint. Before meeting Matt, I never had a boyfriend at all. I was just always, and I think that really helped me because I knew who I was as a person, because it's really important in a relationship to be able to know who you are as a person, who they are as a person, because ultimately you're both of you are a team. There'll be ups and downs and whatever, but that really shaped me and how I approached then work as well. But it's also exciting, don't you think? It's like, it's one of these things where the world is out there. You can do whatever you want to do. But it's just like, so it's whether, like, for me, I love food. I always, like, there's part of my mind now, like, oh, in a different world, I probably would have been a chef or something along those lines.
I love that.
I don't know, I just love food so much. It just makes me so happy. Yeah.
Me too, but
have you watched The Bear yet?
No. Well, no. I watched the first episode. I couldn't get into it from the first episode.
It was good.
I need to.
It's so good.
But I do watch a lot of MasterChef, and I was laughing the other day with my husband. I was like, oh my God, could you imagine me on MasterChef?
I'd love to see that. Do you know, I think you'd be good at Bake Off. I think I could see you on Bake Off.
Did you? No. The other day I did. No, I've just got into baking.
Okay.
I burnt the banana bread.
How can you burn a banana bread? That's like baking 101.
I realised that the oven was like 20 degrees too hot.
Oh, yeah.
And then the cookies didn't really come out. They tasted good.
Yeah.
But they didn't they crumbled a bit.
Oh.
But I'm determined. What I found is baking is, for me, I've only just got into it, but I find it very relaxing.
That's good. And it also teaches you about timing and being specific about certain things.
But, okay, this is a question for you, random. What type of cook are you? Are you follows a recipe to a T, or are you bit of this, bit of that, like, just go with it?
So I feel like, and maybe I shouldn't generalize, but on behalf of lots of Nigerians, you basically cook with your eyes.
Yeah.
So, like, I've grown up just cooking with my eyes. I'm like, Matt hates it. Every time he sees me putting salt in something, I'm like, this is why I'm putting on weight or butter or anything. I'm like, at the end of the day, it does not taste good. Isn't that the goal? You just want to have good food. You can exercise and worry about that later. But baking, and I think that's where it's really, really interesting in terms of all the little things that you actually learn. Like with cooking, you can kind of take chances. You can take risks.
Yeah.
But with baking, you have to be specific.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like, it's like life, really. There's some things that you have to be really smart about and really strategic about, but sometimes you can just have fun with it.
Yes.
And just go with it. So I think that's probably why I find like cooking really quite therapeutic as well, because it allows me to be creative, to try new things, and then I kind of try and like put that within my life as well, and then go for that. And then so going back to what we were talking about, I feel that being able to be a person that's really values led has allowed me to not feel the pressure of not knowing what I want to do, because just life happens.
Yeah.
Like, you can be in a really great career and a really great position, and COVID happens and you just almost have to restart. Or you can be promoted and promoted and promoted, but that then means maybe your family life then suffers, or your friendship then suffers. No one has the answer. Like, no one does. Everyone has different goals. Like, you can even, we spoke about comparison as well. You can compare till kingdom come, but it's not going to change anything. It's hard. This is the thing. Life is hard. No one's ever, I don't think anyone can tell you, follow this path, and you get to option A. But sadly, like, you just got to do what you feel is right for you. And your environment is really important. I think that's another thing that's really, really, really helped me out. I am so privileged and so lucky to have the most amazing women and men surrounding me who are so kind and just so, and I know I keep on talking about it, but that's what my heart is just saying. It's just that you just got to be kind.
Yeah.
And because you don't know where it will take you. I think when I look at my career and how far I've gone, it's because of how I've been able to help people and listen to people and just be there for them when they need it. Because the amount of times that I've, like, honestly, I've made best friends with, like, WorldNet, DHL. If you worked in fashion, you know what I'm talking about.
Do you know what I was thinking? You reminded me of the Matches, like, Postman. You know,
oh my god,
what was his name?
We had this Kevin.
Was it Kevin?
I think it's Kevin. Daniel. There was Daniel as well.
I just always remember going in and being like,
They're so
from whatever
lovely.
orders.
Genuinely, kindness gets you very far in life. Like, really far in life.
It doesn't take a lot. I mean, I'm so with you there. And I think being kind to people in the office and building good relationships with people is, like, one of the best things that you can do for your career. And especially when you're starting off and you're, like, new, you know, and you don't know that much, just being kind and being open to building relationships with people is a great place to start.
It really, really is. And it's like, it's been great in terms of being in sticky situations, whether it is actually like getting something simple as getting an item from London to a shoot on time, or working with an artist and making sure it's shot, or being in situations where maybe shots aren't up to standard and you can't use them, and then trying to build and manage relationships. So I think for me, that's just been really great in terms of my career and getting me to where I am at this point. But I'm excited about life. I think more than anything, I just want to just enjoy life. And don't get me wrong, I am hungry. I don't know. I woke up at the start of this year. I didn't have any goals or anything. Obviously, I have like little things I want to do, like save money, pay for a wedding, because that's expensive, as you know. But ultimately, I woke up this year with this sort of hunger of, I want to be a leader. But I want to be a leader that is just growing an effective team that gets whatever they want. Because I don't know what I want to do in terms of, I'm excited for opportunities. And it could be maybe working in a restaurant. It could be maybe in terms of like partnership and branding and like all those sorts of things, or strategic initiatives, or it could be working for a football club. I have so many interests that I'm like, the world is my oyster. I just have to go and get it and just do whatever I want to do and just like hope for the best, really. Obviously, you still need to be able to pay the bills. But ultimately, nobody ever does. I would love to know someone, like, other than like some people who are very much like, oh, they want to be a lawyer or a banker or this and the other. I just haven't ever had that, like, I've never been that way inclined to know, this is exactly the career I want to go, or the path that I want to go.
Me too.
But it's scary, isn't it, sometimes?
It's scary and it's exciting. Yeah. And I feel your excitement and I feel excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. And I have no doubt that you will be leading that incredible team and being an incredible leader and inspiring everyone with your kindness, like 1,000,000%. And we need more leaders like that who are just being people's cheerleaders and like bringing them up, because I truly think that is how you create a confident team, rather than just like pushing people down and telling them that they can't do things. And it's that, I think when you feel that feeling of what am I doing with my life, and I know I've definitely felt that intense like uncomfortableness with it, of like, oh my gosh, the panic. But exactly as you just said, we have no idea. And when you're on that like almost tightrope between excited and scared, if you can lean more into the excitement of like, imagine the opportunities, imagine the things that I'm going to go on and do. And I definitely, I'm no way one for a 5-year plan. I don't know, maybe like 1 year max. But I often think like, what else am I going to go on and achieve? And all these ideas that I have, gosh, I've got another, 70 years where I can be doing all these things, and like I can at some point achieve that if I want to achieve that. And how exciting is that?
Funny enough, I have this thing that I always go in my head when I'm going through like a really tough situation. I'm like, my autobiography is going to look really great. Genuinely, that's one of the things that I think of, where I'm just like, this is going to make for interesting reading. So I always think that when I go through issues like that, both happy and sad moments, I just think, look at where your life is shaping, look at what you've achieved. And the thing is, people, like, I had a situation with a friend the other day where I'm like, look at your life and look at where you've grown. Like, we fail to realize that just because you don't have this big tick at the end of it doesn't mean you haven't grown. It just means that you've just gone through lots of different parts, and it's teaching you for something else further down the line. Like I mentioned in my journey, there are certain things I said, like from watching Wimbledon to then buying this luxury shoe and then working at matches. I don't know, maybe I need to, maybe it's because I've actually hasn't said the final thing yet, that like it hasn't come to fruition, but everything happens for a reason. And I'm really glad that you're doing this podcast, because it's funny, because I had this idea in my head before where nobody focuses on that in-between stage of life, where you always, especially in movies growing up, it's like you finish work, you finish uni, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, grandkids, all those sorts of things, but you never see that episode of what actually happens in between that phase of finishing uni or finishing school or not doing either, and then that next step. I don't think people talk about it enough.
I completely
agree. So that's why it's like quite scary. So I'm really, really, and thank you. I actually haven't said thank you for having me on this as well, because it's a really, really important topic, and you're not alone. Like, no one's alone out there. Like, we are all going through this. We all have going through this. Even the most successful people have gone through this. And and funny I said the most successful people, because everyone's version of success is going to be different.
But we will look at who we think is successful, and I have no doubt people will be, searching for you and being like looking at LinkedIn and being like, oh my gosh, this is my dream company and job, and like, and that's why I just love this so much, because it's like people will look at you and think you've got this incredible career, which you do have, but there's been a journey to get to that. And I think it was surprising for me when I kind of realized, oh my God, I had so many what am I doing in my life moments and so many ups and downs, but yet people were like thinking I had it all sorted, and I was like, wait a minute, I don't, and I'm going to tell you about how I don't. So last question then for you. If someone's listening to this, if they feel lost, stuck in life, they just don't know what they're doing, what 3 pieces of advice would you give them?
One I would say is get a diary. One of the most important things I've done this year, and I used to do it before, but really this year I honed in on it, is literally get a diary, put week 1, Monday to Sunday, wherever you want to start your week, and just write the tiniest to-do list in the world. It can be as little as go to the shop to pick up flowers. Write everything in your head down. You get so overwhelmed with life and work. It just has a really massive impact. And I know for me, there's been moments where life has just got so overwhelming. But buying a diary and writing things down, usually on a Sunday, I will put BBC Radio Sean Leary. Great. She's great. I'd recommend. Listen to Chillis Hits and just write down any tiny little thing, from pay a deposit to do the laundry. It honestly, best thing that I've ever done this year. To write a list of things that you like to do on the side, and make sure you don't think about work all the time. You don't need to be working all the time. Why are you working? I literally ask, that's the question I ask myself. Why are you working? Because if you're working to get money in your bank account, to pay your rent, to pay your mortgage, to pay everything else, once that's all done, what are you doing for yourself? So you need to make sure you know what makes you happy, and not anybody else in your family, not anyone else in your friendship group, you. It could be as little as, I'm going for a walk every day. You don't have to go for a walk every day, but make sure you know what makes you happy and make time for that. Because, like I said, life is too short, and you need to remember the things that drive you to do what you are doing. And then third, but most importantly, we've spoken about it, I feel like it's the theme of this week's conversation with me, is just be kind. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to everyone around you. Just be kind. It gets you more places than you've ever realised. And just because you've seen someone senior do it to someone junior and they get promoted, doesn't mean it is the right thing to do. It might not be now, might not be next week or next year, but that where you want to go, you will get there. But make sure you're doing it on your own. So make sure you can sleep at night knowing that you made the right decision on you. You don't have to copy what everybody else is doing to hit that final goal list. And have fun. Have fun. Watch movies.
I love that.
Just chill out. Enjoy life. Just have fun. Yes. Life is short.
It is, isn't it?
Enjoy it. Just do what makes you happy. No one is perfect. We don't know what we're doing.
No.
we're just going with it.
We're figuring it out each day.
Everyone's figuring it out. Everyone is.
Yeah.
We don't have, unless there's somebody out there that actually has a psychic ball. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Just go with it. Go with the flow.
Thank you so much,
thank
Ire.
you.
Honestly, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. I feel like I could talk to you for hours, so thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Take care.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to or watching this episode and for supporting the podcast. It honestly means the absolute world to me, and I want to spread the message that it is okay to not have everything figured out. No one really does. So I hope listening to this has helped you to feel less alone. 2 things that really help me spread this message are leaving a review and also sharing this episode with anyone you think that it might help. So if you are able to do that, honestly, I would appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your day. Take care, and I will see you soon.